Welcome to the InStory show. I'm Devorah Spilman, your host, and today I am thrilled to welcome Don Montefusco. Hi, Don. So Dawn is an award-winning poet and a transformational writing coach. And today what we're going to do is we're going to dive into really how do you recognize and move out of resistance and her a lot of her work about being seen is to be seen in your writing and to bring your writing out in the world. And so we're going to kind of dive in to that. And as always with everyone, Dawn, I want you to start a little bit about your story and who you were when you were a kid.
That's awesome. Okay, so when I was a kid, I was just as gregarious and wild as I am now. And luckily, my grandmother really enjoyed it, actually. I had a three generation house, I guess, because we lived with my Polish grandparents and my mom and dad. And I loved the Carol Burnett show. So I was totally all about Carol Burnett, and I wanted my own show. That was it. So I also wrote little poems. My grandfather got me an old-fashioned typewriter, and as a little kid back in the day, we actually had to use our penmanship. Remember when we actually had penmanship classes? So when I got this typewriter as a 5-year-old, when you tap, 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 and words actually come out where you don't have to worry about writing them, I went nuts, and I would write these little poems like "The apple fell from a tree," "Can't you see me?" I gotta pee, or whatever it was that I wrote. I mean, literally, you're 5. You just write these ridiculous poems. And I would rip them out and run to my mom and say, look, I wrote a poem. And so I would save them. And then once a week, we would have the Dawn show, which was really the Carol Burnett show. And I would get wigs. My grandparents would give me all kinds of things, lipstick or, whatever. And I'd sit them on the couch and I would tell them stories about what happened that week. And it could be that, I got to draw a beautiful picture on the chalkboard at school, or someone taught me how to tie my shoes properly, or maybe, we got to play hopscotch, and I would just demonstrate the hopscotch. And then I would maybe read them a poem or two, and we would wrap up with sometimes I would lip sync a song really poorly because I didn't know the words. And this is just what we did. We just did this. I wanted to have my own little show every week. And I said I would grow up to be an actress. That's pretty much all we could kind of conjure back then. There was no internet, there was nothing. So then came junior high school, and I was top of my class in drama, and I had a drama instructor who became my drama coach. And unfortunately, when I was going to try out for the School of Performing Arts in Manhattan, which was a big deal, I'm from New York, so I grew up in the Bronx, she broke her leg the day before. And so I didn't have my drama coach. My wonderful father, who tried his best, drove me there and put the fear of God in me. This would be hard. I may not get it. Don't worry. It's okay. It's really going to be tough, kid. And this whole thing that I had, memorized and wanted for the audition literally dripped out of me as I saw this huge line of strangers all getting ready to, see if they can make it to the school. Needless to say, I froze in front of it's like this giant gym with about 4 people that are like, go. And I just froze, cried all the way home. Didn't make it into that. Then I did get into a Broadway workshop, which only 5,000, out of 5,000 kids in the Bronx, not the Bronx, in all the boroughs, they picked 2 to work with the Broadway actors on Broadway. I was one. And then my mom decided she would not let me ride the subways at night, nor drive me. And so she just didn't think it was safe, or, my mom had her issues and wanted me to drop. Well, basically I had to drop out. I didn't have permission to leave the house at 15 and go do these things. So I definitely got decided my dreams were not worth it. And I guess I was just wishing on a star, and it all just seemed ridiculous. And so by then, I decided to just stay with writing in college. It was easy. My father was like, kid, don't worry about the acting, because NYU has the Tisch School of the Arts and the acting. He said, just, you're great at writing. You should just be a writer. And I don't know which came first. Like, did he put that in me, or is that what I wanted? But I was like, okay, I can deal with this. This is kind of a nice creative outlet, and I get to tell these stories and read out loud, because you get to go to readings and stuff. But then I was being groomed to work at Putnam Publishing, which is a huge publishing house back in the day. And I met someone who knew someone, and I was being groomed to be the assistant to the president, like, and to be an editor. They were like, we're going to hire you right out of the gate. We're going to put you in Putnam Publishing. And so every summer I worked for them, and I got more and more freaked out that I was going to be trapped in a building in Manhattan. Just, I couldn't fathom it. So I escaped New York, and I was a preschool teacher on the beach in Florida, where I was just sort of gathering my wits about me. Like, I just quit kind of like everything to deal with this. I met a boy, I was living with him. And being a preschool teacher was interesting because I learned a lot from actually being in front of these little ones. I was the star again. I really was. I was the star of the show. And so I wound up being one of the, I mean, I got all these like, you get not awards, you get pointed for your classroom, and they're very strict on making sure you're a teacher that follows all the rules. And so I always had these high points. I was one of the better teachers. And I would teach the kids how to perform. By the way, I built a little stage for them, and I taught them poetry, and I taught them art. So basically I was teaching the alphabet, which is all you do with pre-K really. The alphabet and a couple of numbers is really all the stuff they need to learn, by using performance, by using poetry, by using different outlets that were artistic. And they had a blast. And I was like, this is cool. I like this idea of teaching, because I still had the audience, you know? So I'll get back to the preschool thing later, but basically, long story short is I then got caught in corporate one more time after grad school. I got my MFA in writing, went back to public relations, escaped, felt dead inside. I actually wrote a song, a very short song and poem, sitting at the desk that I actually perform to this day, about how I was an artist wannabe. And I just thought I would never be an artist. Like, I'm stuck at this fucking desk. Excuse me. I don't know if we can curse on the show. Freaking desk. Stuck at this freaking desk. And then I went blind. I started going blind in my left eye due to a retina detachment that was from birth, because I was a premature baby. So apparently it was just something waiting to happen. So I wasn't allowed for 3 months before I quit. I wasn't allowed to read, write, work out, or work, because I had to keep my eye so stable after I have a Gore-Tex ring around my eye after all the surgeries to replace the retina, that I went from being a human doing to a human being, because there was nothing, I couldn't do anything. The community came together to help me eat. I was on disability. I was fine. Like, all my Maslow's hierarchy of needs were met. And I had all this time, and I couldn't do anything. Yeah. And so I wound up listening to some books on tape. Back in the day, it was Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer. And it occurred to me that I just wasn't happy. And I think, I'd hate to say it, but in my experience, it's the sort of, not necessarily always the dark night of the soul, but pretty close to it, that is the pop that you need to go, wait a second, what did I want? And how come I got so far away from it? And I was 29, and it happened to me again in my 40s. It's not like you get away with it once, but I wound up quitting amicably. You know, they offered me a raise. I had a window that looked at, I had an assistant. I had all the corporate things, and I just took off. I just said sorry. And I wound up waiting tables and living off my, some of my retirement fund at the time. And I started writing again. And I started writing poetry, and I started getting published in little literary journals. And I said, you know, I'm going to go back out west, because I had been out west before. And I left the East Coast, and I went to move to Portland, where I live to this day. I got a job at a community college, and I was back in front of an audience, my students. And so it really allowed me to see that, you know, there was something there about being in front of people and making a difference. That was part of what I was trying to do when I was a kid. Yeah. And it didn't look exactly the same. It wasn't the Carol Burnett show. But I'll tell you what, I brought wigs into the classroom. I was funny, I was entertaining, and I was able to teach at-risk youth which were the hardest kids to work with, how to not only pass their classes, but go on to get their associate's degree. And so it was something that made me go, wow, there's more here to me than meets the eye. And then from there, I just wound up writing again. I went back and I said, what is it, that thing? What's that thing that I keep missing? And so I started doing spoken word poetry on the side. And then I was on a stage again. And then I was, getting published again. And I was winning awards for poetry. And I thought, gosh, I get to tell true stories in a way that's really entertaining. And so from there, I just started to work with other people, get them out of resistance. And here I am today, helping people basically transform their lives through writing and getting their stories out to the world.
What I love about that so much, because I'm so into integration, and I also love how so many of the people that I interview and the women I work with, it's like they bring that original childhood story back into who they get to be now. And and the theme of this series is it's finally your turn, and dare to be seen. It's like that sense that it's not too late.
No, never.
And I'm sure you have that a lot with people who want to write, because what I find is that I work mostly with women, and that when we're over a certain age and we've lived these really rich lives, we have something to say.
Oh, absolutely.
So I love that, like, when you were little, you knew you had something to say and that it was worth it for people to listen to it. And then they all told you no, it wasn't, for a while. Mm-hmm. And then you did your work to come back and say, yes, what I have to say has value. Mm-hmm. It makes a difference. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about how do you in particular help people through these blocks and these resistances? Because we all have them. And, I know you said, and we were talking about how that's always part of the work. Like, it doesn't really go away. So I would love to hear some of how you got through how you get through resistance and how you help others do it.
What's interesting about resistance is that, and I'm writing a book on resistance, cracking the resistance code. And so I've really been in it, and I've been in resistance writing it. So I've been my own guinea pig, which has been crazy, because it's a weird flip on itself. Like, I'm writing about resistance, and then I was in resistance about writing about resistance. I was like, how does that go? But here's what's interesting. There are some people who were lucky enough to be raised. Like, Flora Bowley. I think Flora Bowley, I'm not sure. She's a friend of mine here in Portland. She's an artist and a writer. And she has an interesting story. Her parents never stopped encouraging her, ever. And you can see the difference. This woman has been on fire, but she had a struggle. She was a yoga teacher, barely getting by, and this and that. But she was so consistent and had so much positive reinforcement that it was inevitable that it was going to like just bring her out. Not everybody has that, and I would say most people don't. So the thing about resistance is it's never going away. And when I say that, I mean, because of the culture and the society we live in, we are part of the hive mind. And whether it's the grocery store, the tea shop, coffee shop, work, colleagues, family, best friends, they're locked in a mentality, many people are, that say, don't bother, it doesn't matter. And worse than that, you're making me feel bad because I'm not following my dreams, so how dare you follow yours? And they don't mean to do that. So we're almost always inundated with the idea that maybe we shouldn't, right? There's always that little bit of resistance. You're not good enough. Why are you doing this? No one's going to read it. No one's going to want to see a one-woman show, say, or no one's, whatever it is, whether it's stage or the page, because that's what I do, I stage and page. Whatever it is, no one's going to want to see it, which is the biggest lie. Like, it's such a huge lie that it pisses me off, because I've never so far in 50 years of whether I was a little kid, in every place I've ever been, especially now with the internet, I've never ever seen anyone finally come out and tell a story and not have at least one person say, thank you. Everyone I worked with, everyone I've talked to say they've gotten an email from somebody within a short period of time of releasing, whether it's a Facebook post that tells something really amazing and true. Somebody says, thank you, So it's this weird, old, antiquated mentality before the internet, really, where, you know, you needed a very expensive agent, or you needed to be a celebrity, or you needed to be all these other things. Hey, give me a break. What are the highest rated shows? Reality shows. Okay. Reality TV is getting more, nobody's really cares about fiction so much anymore. They want to know what's really going on out there. So first of all, resistance isn't going away because everyone's, many people, I should say, is locked in a mindset that you are susceptible to. So that is something that you have to make peace with. Now, when you make peace with it and you go, okay, so resistance is never going away. And it's like a flea. It jumps into different places. Sometimes it'll say you don't have time. Sometimes it'll say you're tired. Sometimes it'll say, you know, oh, I'm too old. Sometimes it'll say I'm too young. It's just this thing that jumps around looking for a place to be, to keep you, and you know this, away from danger. That's it. It's just trying to keep you away from this make-believe danger, which doesn't exist, by the way, at all. We're not being chased by saber-toothed tigers. We're just telling a story. And here's what I've noticed. The same thing applies to any age adult that applied to my preschool class. And this is kind of crazy because now I've seen it so well orchestrated that it's bizarre. So when these little kids, I'd say, hey, here's your assignment. Say it was write about your day in the simplest language that you have because they're little. Many of them, they're going like this, and you go around the class, and then you want to walk, you go over to someone, and then they go, stop. No. Kids are very persistent. Don't look. I go, okay. And if you just have someone, even one person that says, can I just see a little? You know, and the kid will go, okay. And then you go, wow, that's not so bad. And you point out what's good about it. It might not all be great, but you point out the good and give a little direction. They light up, and they finish it. When they finish, now here's the craziest part, when they're actually done with whatever it is, stage or page, whatever it is you want to put out in the world, once it's actually done, kids will go, can I show someone? And adults who I work with, would I say, you don't ever have to publish. What is your dream book? Let's just get it out and let's not even publish it. Let's just do it for you. Halfway through, they start going, so what was that about online publishing and how do you self-publish and what's going on? That same little kid that says, I want to show you now, is inside of you. And you just got to get past a certain point to where you realize, gosh, this is kind of cool. I really feel better telling my story, being seen. It feels amazing. It's enlivening, you know? So I feel like the majority of what I do is help people recognize what resistance style is coming up and when, because we have multiple ones and they come up at different times. Get so used to it that it becomes neutral. And when resistance becomes neutral, you have all the courage and power and anything you need to do. The resistance just sort of takes a back seat. But it really requires a bit of, I think, repetition and training and understanding that it's not something that's going to go away. It's something that you just recognize. It's a human condition and you keep moving past it, just like the kids did.
Right. I love that so much. So I know you mentioned that you have like a little teeny mini exercise for us.
I do. So here's perfect timing. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it really quick. And I'm going to set a timer for 30 seconds. Let's do it. Okay. We'll just do 30 seconds is enough. So here's the exercise. You and I, do you have a pen and paper real quick?
Yep.
You and I are going to start with the word sky.
Okay.
Now, you are going to do a word association and anything goes. It can rhyme. It cannot rhyme. It could be a phrase. It could be just a word. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no way to do it wrong. That's it. So we start with sky. We go 30 seconds. Ready?
Yep.
Go. Okay. Usually I do this for at least 3 minutes. Some people recommend even going a whole hour. And that's if you're really looking for some creative patterns. But here's what I wanted to ask. Was there one moment, just even a hair of a second, where you thought, I shouldn't write that word? Or,
yes.
okay.
Or, I thought, I should make this good in case I have to read it.
There you go. There you go. Right there. And I said, there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't matter. I didn't even say you could read it. There was nothing that said you had to read it. Nothing. So I was like, so I'll read mine. And if you don't mind, you can read yours if you want. You don't have to. But I actually, even today, having taught this 1,000 times, I had a moment where I went, oh no, I shouldn't write that word. Okay. That's resistance. And that's how pervasive it is. Here's mine. Sky by, why can't fail, hail, rain, showers, small things, ping pong, Kong, monkey, honky, white. And I just saw the Eddie Murphy movie Dolomite. So the word hunky is in there quite a bit. Now that's a non-PC word. You should never use that word. But I just saw it in a freaking movie. It's a great movie, wonderful film. And I thought, I can't write that word, right? I also said showers went to small. And for just a second, I thought, that's stupid. Why don't write the word small after showers. And I was like, oh my God, get out of my freaking head, right? So if you do it for a minute or two or three a day, you start to actually realize that the resistance is always there, and then you become neutral to it. And it's a wonderful way to have 3 minutes, and it actually triggers the mind to recognize the resistance, to get neutral, and to keep going.
So I'll share mine, and then I want to encourage everybody to, if you did it, you can share it if you want to.
Yeah,
in the Facebook group, right? Because it's really fun to love what comes out spontaneously in that flow, right? And to feel good about sharing it. So I wrote sky, blue, open to the new, alive in the forever, beyond, open over me, becoming aware, singing. Right? Because I gave me this feeling. And that was what was coming to me, but I did go through like, I'm the host of the show, so I can't write, so I was.
It's a crazy thing. And if you do it for 3 to 5 minutes a day, right before you write, I mean, you can't do it wrong. There's nothing wrong.
And you just pick whatever word you want to pick. Just pick
any word you start and you just go. And the thing is what it does is you start to feel that resistance. It's literally like if you were in a car and suddenly the brakes got on a little bit, and then you would go, oh, why are the brakes on? I'm driving. And then you go, my foot was on the brake for a second. Sorry, I don't need to put my foot on the brake. And so you start to just train yourself not to put the foot on the brake. Right. So when you're creating anything creative, anything writing, you will train yourself to not put your foot on the brake. Yeah. And the most amazing things come when you're not being hard on yourself.
I agree. I do the same thing. Because I have this whole thing called InStory, the InStory way. I created a kind of writing called InWriting. And the only instruction is you have to start with the word in.
Yes.
Right. That's so it's the same kind of idea. All right, so Dawn, tell us a little bit about your free gift so we can really give people that inspirational nudge into that flow, into that writing flow, and trusting it. It's so healing and liberating in so many ways.
So being able to write your true story without feeling awkward about it, and we're just getting it out. No one's going to see it. It's just like this, just like this example. You could share it, you don't have to share it, whatever, is very healing and important. And it's an ebook. You can get it on Kindle, but I'm getting it free. It's called Write Your True Story, How to Unleash Your Creativity, Share Your Message, and Inspire the World. And what I do is I have concrete examples of writing my true story, which gets really dark and weird. Through my examples, people have said, holy crap, I get it now. I teach you how much memory goes into imagination, am I allowed to use a little of my imagination in a memoir? It's a true story, but I don't remember it exactly. Is that okay? Totally okay. I teach you how to do that. What about transparency and risk? How much is too much? How much isn't enough? How do I navigate those waters when I'm writing or preparing to tell a true story? How does the hero's journey work in today in modern times in a true story? I'm not making it up. I have a whole process of using the hero's journey just for your memoir or true story. And then why is it important? Does it matter? I go all about why it matters, how it matters, just all the little details on that. And legacy. Why is it important to leave the legacy, even if it's for just another person's eyes, or you're just going to show a small audience? But through that process, just like the little kid with the piece of paper, when you read my book and you do some of the exercises and you really get into it, the irony I always find is that people who've read my book say, oh gosh, now I want to show my story. I really want to share it. So I really love that book. It's only 60 pages. It's in Kindle, but it's an ebook, and it's one of my favorite things.
Look, that's so up my alley. I love that you're offering this, because my whole summit, my whole vision, it's all about your story really matters, and that when we hear each other's stories, it really does make a difference. And what you said, I remember if it was before we started in the interview, that every time someone tells their story, at least one person will say,
I said it in the interview. Yeah. Always.
And someone will say thank you. And I really love that so much, Dawn, and that I want everyone to just feel that if you tell your story, you never know who needs to hear it, whose life it might save, and they will say to you, thank you. So, absolutely. Dawn, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. And as we sort of wind ourselves up and wrap up, maybe leave us with a few last thoughts.
Yeah, so when I highly recommend people do share, not even if they don't want to share the words they wrote. If they do the exercise, even if you just share where that moment of the breaks came and how you got through it and what it felt like to just go neutral. You know, maybe even do that exercise once or twice, knowing that those breaks come, meaning the break of the foot, and inspire other people to do the exercise, because it's when we share about like, oh my gosh, I totally heard the critic and then I got through it and now I'm neutral. Even that story will inspire other people to do the same, so that we can all get out of creative resistance together. Because I think as a hive and as a group and as a community that you have in your group, we could have a lot of fun with it, and to really use this group as a way to inspire others just by being a part of the group. I think just by doing that, you'll feel the beautiful power you have in your own story.
Totally agree with you so much. So we have a Facebook group for you all for the InStory show, and all of us, the speakers, will support you. So Dawn, thank you again so much. Everybody, have that courage to be seen. And one of the great ways to start being seen is to share your writing. That is really a beautiful way. So Dawn, thank you so much. And as I say at the end of every show, remember to go out in the world, share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing.
I love that. Bye.